Hey, Dr. Fuller, thank you for joining me for this today. Can you give me a brief introduction of who you are and what you do here at the W?
My name is Bob Fuller. I am actually the chair of the Department of Education here at the Mississippi University for Women.
Thank you
Uh,
for coming to do this today with me.
Glad to be here.
So, part of what we're doing in the course I'm taking right now at West Alabama is really working on developing strategic plans and looking at the challenges within rural education. And part of what I've learned just from running some of our numbers is really becoming aware of how many of our students are actually coming from rural schools out there. So right now, you've seen the numbers, it's around 70% of our students are going back to rural schools and 86% are staying in Mississippi schools, which I think is incredible. But
Yes.
what do you think are the most important steps that we as an educator prep program for those teachers going back in rural schools need to do to make the change happen or sustainable change happen in rural education?
Uh, I think what we're doing with our through our residencies of exposing our students um, to three different schools before they do their internship is helpful for them. And I know here locally, our students locally, begin at West Lowndes, which is a 1A school out in on the west bank of the Tombigbee River, which is all very rural. All of our schools really are rural schools in this area. I mean, we think Columbus and Starkville are big cities, but and nationally that they're still considered rural areas. But so just the experiences that we can give our students uh, helps them understand the differences between certain schools, and some are more rural than others, but and so I think that's helping our students be better prepared to be successful in rural schools as
I think
teachers.
so too. I really think so too. So, talk a little bit about your experiences that you bring into the job as chair at the W, because you've got a great deal of experience with rural schools and rural areas, not just here, but throughout the state. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Previous life, I was middle school principal in Starkville for 15 years, and absolutely loved it. And of course, people from Eupora think Starkville is urban, but it's rural. Our kids were country kids for the most part. Uh, and since I retired as principal, I've been a consultant, and I've been in all kind of schools all over the state of Mississippi, and it's really been very rewarding, but also very eye-opening of the differences between the schools. Uh, and so I've been in Leake County and Kemper County and Simpson County and over in the Delta and Yazoo County, and I've been in a you say rural, I've been in some sure enough rural schools, and they have different it's a different mindset and expectations, and uh but it's all good. Really, the school that I was principal of, we had 700 seventh and eighth graders, so roughly between 300 and 350 kids in the school, which was fairly large. But once I went out into smaller schools, I really saw the merit of having your children and in a smaller school. It's something special.
How do you think going out and seeing those schools, let's say like in the Delta or Knoxville, Kemper, some of those lower income rural schools, how do you think the perspectives that you bring into the W now can really be changed by what you saw in those schools and how we teach our teachers?
You know, uh, I remember, you're talking about high poverty schools. Uh, you know, One of our most affluent school districts around here is actually where my children are in Starkville, and their free and reduced rate is only like 65%.
Right.
Still 2/3 of their kids are
Mhm.
classified as being high poverty schools, and in any other state that would be a high poverty school district. And here, it's it seemed to to be one of our most affluent. High poverty is definitely an issue that and it changes the dynamics of a school. And so my experiences in other places, hopefully, I brought that into especially into the classroom management course that I taught in the past, which I absolutely love teaching that course. Of just getting to know your students is so important, building those relationships, especially with kids out of poverty, because relationships are so important to kids in poverty. They got to know that you care, and you're there for them. And if you're not, they can usually tell. And that creates issues with managing a school or managing a classroom. So my big mantra as a principal, and even now as a chair of a department, is relationships. And it's very important that we as the adults, even within our school of education, but also in the K-12 setting, it's important that the adults model positive relationships
Right.
between themselves, because the students they're looking, they're watching. And so we've got to model those relationships, but also be intentional in creating those relationships for our students that are coming from poverty, especially here in a university setting, those first generation college students. It's important that we give them a little extra TLC.
Right. So just recapping some of the things we've talked about so far, our residencies are definitely giving them a placement into schools that are going to be rural, like the ones they're coming back or going back into in the state.
Right, right.
And I think that's definitely one area that we're creating a substantial, sustainable change. And definitely what you're saying with being able to go in and visit schools. And we're fortunate to be able to do that in our department just because we have
And
so many students
and
that are in the rural schools.
right.
Um,
And I want to add too, though, those residencies, we put our students in a 1A school and I think a 3A school and a 4A school as far as sizes are concerned, but also racially diverse.
right.
One placement is in a school that is, if not 100%, probably 95% African American. We've got a school that is roughly probably 60/40 white, black, and then we've got a school that is probably 85% white. And so we're giving our students a wide variety of students. And the key that I like about those experiences are it shows that primarily to our white students that African American school is awesome. And it shows them that race matters, but it's no excuse,
Right.
or high expectations need to be for all students, and all means all.
I think that's one of the coolest things that comes out of internship when we're talking to our students that have done these residencies. They go into West Lowndes with this expectation of diversity and it gets blown up because they have such a
Yes,
wonderful culture in that
yes,
school. And for so many of them, it's their favorite placement
it
because
is.
that
It is.
school just wraps their arms around them. It's a true rural school when you think about it. They wrap
Oh,
their
they
arms
are.
around them and really envelop them and love them and, feed them biscuits and just do all the things that make it just feel like a family home. And
And the
that's one of
principal
the
out
favorite
there,
placements.
the principal is one of my favorite principals, Robert
Right.
Sanders, and he grew up out there. He knows the people, and he's built those relationships, and he just doesn't accept excuses. I mean, and so it's a sweet, sweet, sweet place.
It really is. So what do you think when we're looking forward to the future with how we help our teachers understand rule and how they can help better work with the community on bringing in more resources and things too. That's one of the areas I think when we look at challenges in rural education that we've seen, those community-based partnerships really enhance what's going on in the school. What ideas or suggestions do you have that we could do a better job with teaching our teachers to be prepared to do that in the future?
I go back to this word I use a lot, and that is intentional. We've got to be intentional. A lot of people talk about how the school used to be the center of the community and blah, 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 blah. Well, it was the center of the community because the school was intentional to make sure they were the center of the community. And we've got to make sure that that's the same. And if it is, that's great. You can tap into those resources, which are somewhat limited in most cases in rural Mississippi and Alabama. But we've got to be intentional and create the situation to where the school is the center of the community, and you get that community support, but also the school is supporting the community as well. It's a win-win situation, but the school has to take that responsibility to make it happen because it's probably not going to happen otherwise.
What do you think the W in the School of Ed can do to make sure we are giving all our teachers the right key ingredients to go back out to these rural schools and make them a thriving population and community?
Oh, I'm gonna go back to our 2 hour residencies again. I mean, they're having those experiences. They're seeing how their mentor teacher hopefully is connected to that community and their role in that community. Because in a rural community, your teachers, they're just your de facto leaders in that community in most places. And, they're the Sunday school teachers in the churches. They're if there's a festival going on in the town, they're usually on the committee or at least the principal is. And hopefully our students can just see how the school and how those faculty members from the school are interwoven into the community, because that's what makes rural schools and rural communities special.
I agree. We often look, at least for me, where my kids are in a very rural school too. You look at that Friday night, just diverse stands of all
Right.
these people up there, and we're just all the community that's built around that and how everybody comes together. And I
And
think
football
about
matters. I mean, it just
right.
does. It's part of our culture here in the South.
And
It's
all the
important.
teachers are there. Like, that's where you run
Yes.
into your teachers. Like, how's my kid
Right.
doing? you know.
Right. Right.
So it's just a different network. It's just a different mentality. Um, and I've been excited to take this class and just learn more about how we're all working together to build up the rural schools, and then how educator prep programs definitely have a role in that. And I think
Definitely.
in Mississippi, for us, because we are such a regional small school where we have lots of first-time, full-time, first-generation students that come from maybe not as their freshmen, but from community colleges and then transfer into our programs, where we're really, really helping them and curating them into future teachers too, which I think is such a cool thing of what we do.
It is. Those educator prep programs, I think, are very important. I mean, my daughter is involved in it at Starkville High School, and that she's found her place. She wants to be an elementary school teacher. And of course, she may change her mind, but I really don't think she will. But we've got to catch them early, and we've got to home grow our folks, especially in the rural, because a kid is not going to from Atlanta, Georgia, is not going to get a teaching job in Smithville, Mississippi. I mean, Smithville is going to be dependent on the locals keeping that pipeline going as far as supplying teachers, 10, 20, 30 years from now.
Right.
So it's
That's
important.
been amazing
Homegrown.
looking at what we're doing, because they really are. That's what we're doing. They're coming in from those communities and they're going right back to those communities to teach.
Yep.
So
That's
I
what
think
we need
that's
to have.
such a such an important part of what we do as we're talking about like the sustainability of these communities and education for the future, the vision for the future, and how what we do, prepping and growing teachers are sending them back into homegrown communities. So, but thank you for coming and talking to me today. Is there anything else you want to add before we get off of here?
Rural is important, especially like children of poverty and rural. And then, I know the urban poverty has gotten a lot of press over the decades, but rural really limits kids, especially kids from poverty. Their world is very, very small. And so I think it's very important as educators that we uh, help those kids and get them out of those areas to where they can see the greater good and the greater world that's out there. Because a lot of them are afraid of the greater world, and
Right.
and that greater world, it's still a good place, but it may look different. And so we need to prepare them. Not only, hopefully, they'll stay in the community. That's our hope. But just in case, we need to prepare them for bigger and greater things, if at all possible.
No, I agree. I agree. And I look forward to creating some plans on some of that for our teachers.
All right,
To be
good
honest.
deal.
But thank you for taking some time with me today, Dr. Fuller. I appreciate
Oh,
this.
thank you. I enjoyed it.
All right. Bye.
Later.